Another bleak day in the American empire as it slides down the slippery slope to fascist policy. But I'm here to tell you that we should never be surprised by evil or paralyzed with despair. Now, with the military outreach, overreach still in place, genocide taking place every day in Gaza, illegal, unconstitutional, and immoral strikes in Iran, we are still on our feet. Yes, we got a rudderless, leaderless, spineless Democratic Party, but here comes some hope with my dear, young, strong, visionary brother Zohran. Yes, Zohran Mamdani. Yes, indeed. And I'm simply here to say, keep holding up that bloodstained banner of the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X and others. I know how difficult it is in the Democratic Party, but be true to yourself and acknowledge the ways in which your mother and father shaped you and molded you, raised and reared you in a beautiful way. And as we continue to struggle together as freedom fighters and love warriors, let us forever hold on to our solidarity and our hope in this moment of seemingly overwhelming despair. Keep that song, keep that style, and keep that smile on our faces.
While we work to take back the House in 2026 and the White House in 2028, we need Zohran Mamdani as mayor fighting against these betrayals right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Not enabling them. Every seat matters. Every race matters. And who is mayor of New York is crucial. New York City needs a leader who won't give Trump an inch, who won't flinch or bargain away our rights. With Zohran Mamdani as mayor, we'll have a leader who will defend our hospitals, our schools, and our neighbors from Trump's devastating policy.
Hello everyone, it's Savannah with Her Patriot Voice. We are in Astoria, Queens today, right in front of Zohran Mamdani's office. There is an anti-Zohran Mamdani rally going on today. He is a self-proclaimed Democrat socialist. He's talked about defunding the police. He's also a Muslim. He has even talked about, most recently, abolishing private property.
The platform is that every single person should have housing. And I think faced with these two options, the system has hundreds of thousands of people unhoused, right? For what? And if there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now.
This man is bad news for New York, bad news for America, and we're going to talk to people out here today, ask them why they're out here. I believe there's also some pro-Mamdani people over here, so hopefully we can try to get some stuff from them too. Stay tuned. What brings you guys out here to support Zohran today?
Who are you with?
Oh, Her Patriot Voice.
Her Patriot?
Yeah, we're an independent YouTube channel. Just want to know why you guys are out here to support Zohran Mamdani.
Yeah, so we're out here to support Zohran because we think that his policies are the best for New York City. I mean, I think that he's run a brilliant campaign and he's dedicated to making New York more affordable and welcoming to all people. And we think that, the group that's opposing him is not a group that represents all Italian Americans.
Okay. What is your favorite policy of his?
Freeze the rent is definitely the one that is most doable and most practical, and it shows his sense of practicality and clarity of mission. But personally, I love free buses. I think I'm a big transit nerd, so I'd love to take a bus for free.
And he's a self-proclaimed Democrat socialist. Do you think that socialism is something that we need in New York City?
I think it's something that we need everywhere, because I think we live under a system that, drives inequality and, makes people suffer and die because they don't have enough money, and creating a more democratic economic system should be an imperative for living in a society.
In what country, like what example of another country has socialism worked in your opinion?
Yeah, so we live in the United States and we have many policies that people would call socialist. For example, public schools, Medicaid, Medicare, those are programs that save lives. There are many other countries that have similar policies.
But what country has socialism done really well?
Yeah, capitalism done really well. We're living in a country with massive amounts of inequality, complete polarization. You know, a significant portion of the country does not like each other. So I don't understand. Everyone says, hey, listen, I'm no fan of the USSR. I think Marx is wrong, right? But social democratic policies do help create some equity amongst the population. And when you have a better amount of equity, you also have better flourishing and more freedom. And we can look at something like the 1950s and the 1960s in the United States as a model of what does a little bit more redistribution look like. Now, does that mean no one should make money? Of course not, right? But if we're going to live in a society, as a society that allows for human freedom and flourishing, there has to be some kind of wealth redistribution for that to happen. And unfortunately, only one side is offering that right now.
Do you agree with Zohran that we should get rid of billionaires?
Yes.
How do you propose that we do that?
Well, in the 1950s, which is using my case study, people making equivalent over $4 million were being taxed 90% over each dollar made over 400,000, which at that time was equivalent to about $4 million. The number is a little fuzzy there. But after a certain amount of money, there's a progressive income tax that takes it away, that allows for greater redistribution. Right? And we see things like by the 1970s, right? America has a lot less income inequality and a lot less poverty than it does now when we decide to resend those policies. And again, no one's talking about for your toothbrush, right? But creating some kind of wealth equity so people can become freer and flourish.
And with having free buses and free transit, who is supposed to pay the transit workers? How are they supposed to get money?
We literally just talked about the billionaire tax.
So the billionaires should pay for it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who protects? How are they able to acquire that wealth? They live in this.
A lot of them worked really hard and had a business.
And the gardeners and the bricklayers would be the richest people in our society, right? We exist in a society, right? We're not a bunch of individuals atomized. We exist in a society, and the reason they're able to get that amount of wealth is because we live in a society that makes that possible. So the question is, why is there a society that makes that possible and homelessness possible at the same time?
What brings me out here is that there are people who are anti-Semitic, right? That don't represent us, right? And this is these people think that we represent that group. So what we want for the city, right, and for the country is a city that we can live in, right? And excuse me if my voice is raspy. I just got off at work. I'm 15 years old. I just got to my SYP program at school. I'm not away from here, and I think this is like important, right? Being civically active, politically active, representing voices. You know, I'm not Italian myself, but I'm an ally, right? And there are many Italians who historically have supported leftism, socialism, LaGuardia, whatever. Many names. He was Italian. He wasn't socialist, right?
What are you doing?
I want to help, people, Italians represent their culture, their backstories in the way that represents them. I'm going to tell you this, most people here are from Jersey. They're not even from the game. And even if they are, they don't represent the bulk of Italians in Italy.
This guy's going to destroy New York City. I can just see. It never ceased to amaze me that we take Cornel West serious, because this guy's a true socialist. If he would have won the White House, we were doomed, okay? Because this man is way past, I don't even know if you can say he's far left. He's on a whole nother planet somewhere. But anyway, I digress. I want to talk about Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic socialist who wants to become the mayor of New York City. And to my surprise, well, why am I surprised? Black people are jumping on the bandwagon. And the reason why I say they're jumping on the bandwagon is because we are too used to having our hands out, gimme, gimme, gimme. And the way Mamdani is talking, it sounds like he wants to give things like certain programs, which I want to talk about. I wrote it down here, and I want to talk about some of these things that Mamdani says, which could be a downside to his policies. So let's get into it, and let's talk about his, for one thing, his rent freeze. I don't know what this man's thinking, but let me see what I got. So financial strain on buildings. Yes. So freezing rents for over 2 million residents could push rent-regulated buildings into financial distress, especially older ones in outer boroughs. Reduced maintenance and investment. So landlords may cut back on repairs or upgrades, leading to deteriorating housing stock. And finally, vacancy spikes. Some analysts warn that rent freezes could lead to more vacant units, ironically driving up costs for non-regulated renters. So I don't think this guy, Mamdani, is really thinking here, because this is a capitalist society. This is not a socialist society or a communist society. Now, I've seen the communist side. I've seen those places where people live, and it's in shambles. Like sometimes I'm like, you see and you're like, I don't want to go in there because it looks like crap. Okay, and it sounds like Mamdani wants to take New York City. I don't know where he's even going to get the money to even do a rent freeze. Now, we could talk about other things because yes, rent keeps going up and not a lot of people can afford rent. But however, you can't sit down and say, I'm just going to do a rent freeze for, I don't know how long he wants to do this rent freeze, 2, 3, 5 years. I don't know. But you just can't do a rent freeze and expect to bring in revenue, because landlords, because they have to pay also. So in order to do certain things, they're going to have to do some cutbacks. That means that you can't tell the landlords, you have to do this, you have to do that. When you're doing rent freeze, number one, I don't even think it's possibly he can do that, because that's the reason why there's you have the mayor and then you have a council, so that way they can approve certain things. Unlike Venezuela, where it's this guy who's running the show and just doing whatever he wants, and now Venezuela looks like a shithole, where the people of Venezuela is trying to sneak into Guyana and other places because they cannot tolerate the living standard there. And Mamdani's trying to do that with New York City. So let's move down to city-owned grocery stores. I don't know what he's thinking. So operational inefficiency. So critics argue that government-run stores could be plagued by bureaucracy, slow response time, and lack of innovation. Also market disruption. These stores could undercut private grocers, potentially driving small businesses out of neighborhoods. So there's a couple of ways I see this. It can undercut private grocers like these bodegas and things like that you see sitting on the corner. It can undercut them because they would have the support of the city. So they're not, most small business work off of profits, and then they have to budget so that they can know what to spend, what they can put out, and things like that. Because there's a lot expensive. They got to pay rent. They have to do other stuff. City-run buildings, they still have to pay rent and all that stuff, but they're going to have the backing of the city. Now, how much money would the city have? This was already tried in Florida. I can't remember the name of this city, but it was tried in Florida. And everybody thought it was going to be a great thing, and it went right out of business, right out the doors. And it was in a small little 1,400 populated city. So imagine we're talking about, 18 million in New York City? I just don't see this happening. Okay. But not only that, you have this, the way capitalism works is competition. So when you have different business fighting to garnish more foot traffic, to have more growth, they have to offer something that would make people come to that business. So there has to be sales, like sales on fruits and vegetables, and big sale on meats and everything. But what the city-owned grocery stores would do is they would have these set prices that would lower their prices, because for the simple fact is, once again, they have the backing of the city. However, the innovation. So most of these big corporations that run supermarkets, I've been out of New York City so long, so I don't know if the major supermarkets out there, but I know here in Florida you have Publix and you have all these other supermarkets, Winn-Dixie and so forth. They have to improve their technologies, because when you walk into a store, presentation means everything. So if I walk into a supermarket and it looks stunning, it's going to make me want to shop. And that's how they get away with a little higher price, because you're paying for the ambiance, you're paying for great products, because Publix have great products. I'm not even going to lie about that. Their supermarket is on point. The problem is they're very expensive. However, you're going to come out with the best. In these city-owned grocery stores, you can't expect it to look like Publix or one of these major food supermarket chains, because for the simple fact is they're selling their stuff at a much cheaper price. So you can't expect that. So you can expect the place to look like an Aldi's, because Aldi's very low budget. So you can expect the supermarket to look like an Aldi's. However, you cannot expect those stores to last long, because to keep that store up is coming from taxpayers. And when you have this kind of business, the big billionaires that you want to tax so that it can fund your city-owned grocery stores will leave. This is why Trump is right. You got to give corporations bring their taxes down to 15%. When they have 15%, because they're still the government's still going to make money off of tariffs. Okay, so you're going to have tariffs. You got still federal income, and then you have the 15% corporate tax rate. So they're going to build in their revenue. The problem is that Democrats want it so high because they just want to give money away. Okay, and Mamdani wants to tax billionaires and the rich people, because if you notice, billionaires and all the rich people, they live in blue cities and states, because for some reason, Democrats talk a good talk, but they never walk the walk. That the rich people are getting richer under Democrat control, cities and states. But Mamdani is different, and he plans to really tax them, and they know this. So these millionaires and billionaires are ready to skedaddle out of New York City, take the business. They don't mind shipping whatever to New York, but they don't want to stay because they don't want to get taxed, so that the Mamdani could take that money and give it to homeless people, just give it away, so that you can pay for city-owned grocery stores, rent-free apartments, that the city would have to pay while these people live in rent-free. And this is why I believe black people are supporting Mamdani, because of that rent-free. Because yes, rent keeps going up. And instead of addressing that issue, the New York governor should be addressing that issue. They're not, because most of these landlords pay into these politicians' war chest. So I had to just say that about that, so forth. And let's talk about free public transit. So funding gaps. Making buses free would require massive subsidies. Mamdani proposes taxing the wealthy and corporations, but opponents say this could drive investment out of the city. Service quality concerns. Without fair revenue, maintaining service levels and infrastructure could become more difficult. This is self-explanatory, if you ask me. You cannot expect the corporations and everything to pay these taxes, but then you want to increase their taxes so that you can pay for free public transit. It's not going to happen. You got a huge subway system and a bus system. They all work off of revenue. So capitalism works off of profits. Okay. Most business is for profits. That's why when we're looking at our business, we're looking at our sheets. Like I used to have to look when I was running my website. I'd have to get my paper and I have to look at the profit and loss. And the profit and loss would be not just, what you made in sales or whatever revenue you brought in, but now the expenditures. You got to pay employees, you got to pay taxes, you got to pay rent, you got to pay all this stuff. And after you spend all of that, then you have but so much. And not a lot of people understand this. They think that corporations get all this money and then they're running all over the place, but there is expenditures. And if you're going to tax these corporations, you can expect these corporations to skedaddle, get the hell out of Dodge, because they cannot afford the ridiculous taxes that Mamdani wants to hit them with. Besides Mamdani having to get it approved, I don't know if they're going to do it through a vote to have the people decide. And of course the people are going to say, because they say, the wealthy, they fall for Democrats' lines all the time. The wealthy the rich is getting richer. Every year it's the rich getting richer. But if you fall for this, you're going to see some serious struggles in that city. Okay? Universal child care, budgetary pressure. While popular free child care would require billions in funding, without federal or state support, New York City may struggle to sustain it long term. So we definitely know if Mamdani wins, Trump will not be supporting giving them money for that. And I don't know if the state can support it because it's very expensive. Very expensive for child care. Child care is very expensive, and that's why parents can't afford it. This is another thing I think why black people are looking at this and saying, maybe I might want to go with Mamdani because he's promising this universal child care where we don't have to pay. It would be great. I mean, we all would love it. But once again, we live in a capitalist society. And if we think that socialism or communism work, they have already tried socialism on blacks right after the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And that was a total failure because now we're at the bottom of every metric. So let's wipe that out because it's not going to work. Okay. So, there's so much other things, governance and experience, culture and political tensions. I mean, it's going to be really bad in New York City if this guy Mamdani wins. Now, I am no fan of Cuomo or Adams. However, if I had to choose out of the three, I'd be looking at Cuomo or Adams. And I don't even like either one of them. I think they both suck. All three of them suck, but Mamdani's is bad news. And you just cannot vote for this guy because this guy will take New York City. New York City's already in the gutter, okay? New York City's already in bad shape. But you're going to take New York City and you're going to really wipe it out. We're going to go back to the days where there's every corner there's a porn theater for you to enjoy, because Times Square is going to go right out the window. So I hope people in New York City are listening. And for black people, for once, open your eyes. You should be running from socialism. They've already used us as guinea pigs to see how socialism works in New York, in the United States. And we failed. Socialism did not work. It just made us more dependent and really basically violent. Okay. So really think about it.
Right now, there are so many people on Twitter angry with me because of my latest story on Zohran Mamdani. For the past week, I have been speaking with billionaires for the Free Press about what they would do if Zohran Mamdani, a 33-year-old socialist, becomes the next mayor of New York City. And many of them told me that they would consider just leaving and maybe even closing down their businesses. That is what the CEO and owner of Gristetti's, the local supermarket chain in Manhattan, said. So on Twitter, I'm getting so many replies because it's all people celebrating, saying, good, leave. We don't want billionaires here. The problem with that is that Zohran's agenda is very, very expensive. His housing plan alone would cost $100 billion. The size of the city's entire budget is $110 billion, to give you some scale. Zohran's plans hinge upon the ability to hike up taxes on the 1% on corporations, but what he's failing to consider is what if they just leave? Because several billionaires this week told me they would consider that.
If you are one of the white, richer people in New York City that voted for Zohran because you think you're trying to help out the minorities and the underserved, let me show you how your vote is actually going to hurt the people that you think you're trying to help. Anybody, tell me how Zohran is going to pay for free childcare, free buses, when he's going to step into office on the first day and he's going to realize actually the mayor doesn't have any power to raise money on the rich, and that was his plan to pay for all this crap to begin with. I'll tell you how he's going to pay for it. He's going to pay for it by raising property taxes, raising other taxes in any way that he can. The thing you got to understand is I'm from South Richmond Hill. People in the outer boroughs over there, they don't have these big fancy corporate tech jobs. They're not celebrities with fat salaries. The way they make their money is they own maybe a deli across the street, or they own a spice shop, or they work there. And those people are the ones that are going to absorb these higher taxes that he's going to use to generate income for his ill-conceived ideas that won't even get anybody out of poverty to begin with. His whole plan is gonna only hurt middle to lower income black and brown people in New York City. If you have some big, fancy, fat tech job or you're a high income earner in New York City, Zohran's policies will not affect you. It'll affect people that I grew up with, black and brown people in South Richmond Hill, where I worked in Flatbush or in Brookdale. It'll affect people where I went to high school in the Bronx. These are the people that are going to be affected. So, all the rich white people that voted for him because they think that they're doing something good for minorities, you effed up. But don't push your vote through November, because the guy's a scam artist. I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart, from somebody who works with the poor, who tries to do good, who is also a South Asian Muslim that went to Bronx, went to Columbia without lying on my college application. Please, for the love of God, don't hurt the very people you're trying to help. Don't vote for the scam artist.
Who would you like to see become the next mayor here in New York City?
Zohran Mamdani, of course.
Why so?
I really like what he says about the rent freezes are a big one for me. City-owned grocery stores are also a huge factor for me. I don't use the buses that often, but that's pretty cool for the bus takers of New York.
How do you feel that this guy could potentially be the next mayor of New York City?
Dude, we're doomed if he's mayor. I mean, we're going to go full communist. This is not going to work out well. And I've resisted leaving New York for many reasons over the years, but I think this is going to be the final nail in the coffin, and I won't be able to survive in the city with him. No way.
If this guy wins, you're leaving.
I'm going to have to. I mean, my business will be destroyed.
So let's be honest with ourselves about socialism and capitalism, okay? Now, socialism promises equity, but capitalism delivers opportunity. And it's not perfect, and sometimes it might not be fair. When I say fair, I'm talking about like you might be going for a job opportunity, and the way things work, you might not get it. You feel like that's an unfair thing, or you're going for a loan, or your business falls because of certain regulations or things like that. That doesn't seem fair to you. And capitalism do need some type of regulation. I'm not saying overburdened with regulation, but it does need some type of regulation and some type of redistribution in order to stay alive. And with capitalism, there always have to be accountability. That's why a lot of people get arrested for certain things that they do, but there's always accountability. But with socialism, it actually punishes success. What I mean by that is everybody say the rich, these corporate, the rich. Well, remember, it has to start from somewhere. And some people like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, unfortunately, they are rich. God rest Steve Jobs' soul. He passed away, but Gates is still alive, and he's a billionaire. But remember, these guys, some of them started in a garage, but they used innovation. That's what capitalism is all about. Innovation. That's why the poor can become rich and then the rich can become poor, because in capitalism, I give you a prime example. In the stock market, when you are in the stock market, your company's in the stock market, and you want people to invest in your business through the New York Stock Exchange. Every 2 years, I believe, something like that, you have to grow your business by 30%. So innovation, that's when innovation comes in, because now, how do I grow my business by 30%? You have to come up with great ideas, things that keep people investing in your business and coming to your business. And that works with innovation. So when you listen to people talk about socialism actually beats down success. It takes control of businesses, level it out. This is what they talk about, equity, because now everybody's on a playing field. But socialism is a step closer to communism, because in communism, everybody's equal. So if I'm making just $30, everybody's making $30, except for the few who's running the show. You should read a book like Animal Farm by George Orwell. It kind of explains, like, it goes into communism. And he doesn't talk about he talks about like communism, how it really works. Like, everybody's equal, but you're living in the same shithole. Nobody can advance. You're just here. So you live in a shitty house. Your neighbor lives in a shitty house. Like, You're just there. But the oligarchs, the rich and powerful, they don't, because they're the ones making the decision. So they get a different type of comfort level while you're in your shithole. So communism sucks. Socialism is like right there, because now everybody is going to be equal as far as how much money they make. You're not going to do better than the other one, because the government controls the business. Okay, that's socialism. The government controls the business, and you don't want that. You definitely don't want that for business. So yes, capitalism is not perfect, and nothing is perfect out here. There's flaws in everything. But if I had a choice, capitalism would be the one that I would go with. These city-owned grocery stores, it sounds very noble, but it's going to become like DMV. First of all, the workers, the people that work there, because the pay is going to suck. Okay, you're going to get bare minimum, because it's a government-run grocery store. They're not going to pay you what you think you deserve. So that's going to be problem number one when you get to the check cashing place. When you get to the register and you got somebody that's treating you like they work at McDonald's or something like that. Nasty attitude, don't want to hear it, because they're getting paid basically nothing, so that other people could get paid cheap as you getting paid nothing. Then you'll be fighting for your $15, $20 an hour or $30 an hour in a city that's very expensive. So Mamdani is just all over the map with horrible, horrible plans that's going to destroy the city. Why capitalism works in New York City? It's because of competition. Competition is not a bad thing. What it does, it creates challenges, so that way, me as a consumer, I want to go when I see three stores, Best Buy, maybe, I don't know, what other electronic stores out there. Somebody has to offer me the best price, because now I have choices. I can go here, I can go there, I can go wherever I want to get the best price. That's why online is winning, because they reduce their price, or Walmart, because they buy so much, and then they can sell it at a much cheaper price compared to others. Now, if you go with a government run system, it's not going to happen. You get that price, that's what it is. Okay. And there is no, let me go, I got choices. There you go. That's why it's going to be a DMV style. You see how DMV is, especially New York City. Oh man, they're cruel and mean. I don't even want to go in there. But capitalism works well in New York City, because it's such a high, innovative place that competition is everywhere. And competition helps for people to have choices to go where they want to go and to shop and get things that they feel that they can afford. This is why you need capitalism. So if we're serious about equity, let's fix capitalism. Capitalism, like I said, works. It's not perfect, but it works. Let's not fantasize about replacing it with a model that's never survived the weight of a city that complex. Okay, so like I said, New York City's huge. 18 million. You put in a socialist individual with an ideology that equity will fix everything. You're wrong, because we're all not equal. Like I said, there might be one person who's better than me at something that I'm not. We're not. We all can't be equal. Somebody's better than others. Somebody can box better than the other. Somebody can throw a football better than the other one. Somebody has more talent than the others. That's just life. But that's how we survive in a capitalist society. We take our talents and we use it to grow and to become better. Okay? Some people are good at some things, some are lazy. Businesses reward hard workers. So if they hired you and your job is to build that business to be successful, and you do that, that business have to reward you. Okay. It's not like they say, hey, thanks for helping this business grow. Now get back to work with at your income, at the pay you're at now, because now, once again, in a capitalist society, you have choices. You can say, screw this. I'm going somewhere where I'm treated better. And most business don't want that, especially after they invested so much in hiring you. They're going to want to reward you. Okay. So that's why capitalism works in America, and especially in New York City. It works everywhere, and I think that we need to get off this Mamdani train and really start to look at, I'm sorry to say, and I don't like him, I would rather, whoever the Republican is that's running, if he has have a Trump mindset, okay? Trump works off a merit-based system. And if we start holding people accountable, taking the most qualified, helping others that hasn't reached that level, but you feel that they can, helping them to get to that level without playing games with them. There's so much that we can do and to help others so that they can become more successful. That's what capitalism is all about. Okay. So let's do the right thing, New York City, and vote for the right mayor. I still say put a Republican in there. You put a Republican before the last Republican mayor. They was it Bloomberg? He went up as a Republican. I don't know. He's a phony. He was all over the place. A real Republican, the last one was Giuliani, and Giuliani turned New York City around. Was he my favorite mayor? No, because there were some things that he said that really bothered me. However, let's keep it real. Giuliani made New York City not only much safer, but more profitable, because he was able to bring business back to New York City by using the police department and spanning them out throughout the city. The five boroughs, getting the homeless people off the streets. So when I hear people say, oh, Trump wants to mess with the homeless people, and it sounds all stupid. Yeah, get them off the streets, because the majority of them get a check every month. They just don't want any responsibility. They want to take the check, drink it, smoke it, do whatever they want, and then have their hands out. Let's stop that. Ones who need mental help, get them the help they need. However, let's stop coddling to these homeless people that can work, that can do something, and let's start holding everybody accountable. Anyway, please remember to like, subscribe, and share this channel. I still need more viewers, and I'm still going to be putting out videos, and hopefully I'll be able to start doing some live events where people could come in. They can chew me out if they want to. They could call me the usual names they like to call me, Uncle Tom, and all this other stuff, and we could just debate about real issues without being angry, nasty at each other. Okay, I'm always here. Like, subscribe, share this channel, leave a comment. I will respond back to as many as possible, depending on how many. Right now it's been low, but hopefully I'll get 30, 40, 50, 100, 200, who knows. And we can then go ahead. And like I said, I will try to do my best to respond to everybody. Until then, you guys have a great day. Peace.